I started phasing in and out of consciousness, and apparently I started turning white and I didn't even realize, and you know, Lily basically told me this, and I actually started losing my eyesight. That was probably the scariest thing that happened. You know, I hear Lily panicking. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know, you know, she can see that I'm getting weak. I'm feeling like I'm gonna lose consciousness. You know, it's gonna happen. And so all of this chaos is going on. All of this panic is going on. You know, they're trying to get someone to take me to the hospital because I don't think they had a car there. So I think they were calling someone to, who eventually did come to get me, to take me to the hospital. But, you know, we're not really sure what's gonna happen at this point. And I'm just sitting at this table, like kind of slouched over, feeling really weak. Apparently, you know, I look like a ghost. You know, my girlfriend told me after, like, you look like you were a ghost. You were just pure white. But I remember as I started going blind, as I started losing my eyesight, and that was when I really started panicking. That was when I started panicking a little when I started losing my eyesight, because, I mean, that's a scary thing. I've never had a problem with my eye. I've gotten hit in the eye before and it's gone blurry and come back, but I've never had it where it's just like the vision, your vision just starts extinguishing. And you literally can't perceive anything through your eyesight anymore. And so that was scary. And it wasn't like an impact to my eyes. It was like both of my eyes equally were just fading until the point where I really couldn't see anything. And this is when, and this is like when the crazy stuff happened, that was so profound. A voice came to me. And I actually can't remember if it was a voice or it was a feeling, but there was 100% another presence there with me. And I remember it was above me because I was just looking up when I was perceiving this presence. And it told me essentially that everything's gonna be okay. Just to relax, everything is gonna be fine, don't worry. And immediately when I felt this or I heard this, I became relaxed. You know, I'm still have no eyesight, you know, blood's coming from my leg. Lily, my girlfriend, and everyone else is panicking in the background, not knowing what to do. And I suddenly got this feeling of just intense love. And I know that sounds very strange because I'm in this situation where things could go really ugly really fast, right? You know, we're on the precipice, so to speak, in this moment. And I just felt this presence come seemingly out of nowhere. And I just felt this incredible amount of love in that moment. And I started smiling. And I was like just smiling, and I think I was laughing. I can't remember if I was laughing at that point. I know at one point I was, but I just started smiling, and all of the fear I felt when I started losing my eyesight, all of the panic just went away. It just evaporated as if it was never there. And I just felt this euphoric feeling, this amazing feeling of just everything is going to be okay. And it was as if I was being embraced, as if, I'm like kind of remembering it now. It was like I was being just embraced and guided and looked after. And my body or something within me connected to it and knew that everything was gonna be okay. And I don't mean everything okay like I'm gonna survive and be fine physically. I felt that no matter what was gonna happen, I was gonna be fine, whether I stayed or I left. And that was why it was such a euphoric moment for me. Because in that moment, I really believe I looked at potentially death or maybe some neurological damage or whatever it was and went, it's okay. And I never had a moment like that in my life ever, where I'd been confronted with something like that, experienced something like that, but then had this overwhelming feeling coming from something, having this love come in and say, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be okay. No matter what happens here physically, in the physical world, you're gonna be fine, don't worry. And intuitively I knew whatever this was telling me this, that it was right. I knew that that it wasn't lying to me, that this was truth being spoken to me, and it was coming from a place of love. And then I'll never forget this. I calmed, I kind of embraced that feeling. I understood it, I felt it, I experienced it. And then it asked me, do you want to go? And I remember this so clearly. It was as if a voice came into my head. It wasn't me, and I knew it wasn't me. It wasn't a thought, it was a presence. And it said to me, do you want to go, or do you want to stay? That was what I remember, at least, kind of the question. And I just paused, I think, momentarily, and from a place of not being afraid to say the answer, I think I'll go. I actually said, you know what? I don't think I'm done here. I want to stay. And with my ego completely removed, my ego completely gone in this situation, not even trying to survive, but just feeling and soaking in this love and acceptance of, you know what, it's okay no matter what I choose. And being given that choice was amazing. And it asked me that question, and I just intuitively knew in that moment that, yeah, I'm not done here yet. And immediately when I made that decision, this same presence pretty much told me, instructed me, gave me the image of the Wim Hof method, for those of you who know what that is. And it essentially was instructing me, okay, you want to stay? I'm going to show you how you're going to be able to stay. I'm going to show you how you're going to stay conscious, how you're going to get out of this without really any damage, except, pretty nasty gash and maybe a scar. And I didn't question it. I knew everything right now was intuitive, was coming from somewhere beyond me. And I immediately started doing the Wim Hof method. And so what I think happened when I look back at this, I think that whatever this presence was, and I believe, I'll tell you my thoughts, I think this was the universe, I think this was divine intelligence, I think this was my higher self, whatever you want to call it, coming down to communicate with me. And this was my first experience of this happening so vividly. And why it gave me the Wim Hof method is because it knew I had an association with that, and it knew that method, probably any other level of breathing technique or maybe some meditative technique would have helped me, but the one I knew the most and I knew how to specifically do was the Wim Hof method. And also know before this, I was phasing in and out of consciousness. Like there was a point where I could have completely passed out. My vision at this point is still gone. Like it hasn't come back. I started doing the Wim Hof method, and within about a minute, my vision started coming back. The color of my face started coming back. I think like the bleeding pretty much started to stop. I regained pretty much all of my consciousness, and my body started to vibrate. It literally started to vibrate, especially around the now open wound. And I'm now smiling and laughing. I mean, it must have. I must think from like the perspective of like my girlfriend and like the people who were there. They must have been like, "What the fuck is going on?" Because like I'm in agony. I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm passing out. Oh my god, my eyesight's gone too." Just like, "Oh my god, guys, hey, what's up? Oh, isn't this amazing?" Like it must have been like a really bizarre experience. Also for those who were there observing the whole just range of everything that occurred. But I did that, and everything just started to come back. And I just, again, felt so much love. And that was kind of the overarching theme here, is I just started doing that method, and this love, again, just started coming up for me. I just was filled with so much love. The biggest lesson I learned, I would say, is that everything's going to be okay. It's funny how the universe works in a synchronistic way, because I was already learning intellectually the idea that everything's going to be okay. I listen to people like Alan Watts, for example, a lot, and some other spiritual teachers, where a lot of their message kind of comes back to this idea that, no matter whatever form you find yourself in or whatever's going on, everything's going to be fine. Everything's in divine plan. Everything is in this universal process and plan, and it's going to be okay. Right? And I was starting to connect to this idea more and more. But of course, connecting to an idea intellectually and hearing someone else's experience is a lot different than having your own. And so in that moment when, I was losing my sight, had lost my sight really, and you know, everyone around me is in panic, and I'm getting to the point of panicking. To have that presence come in, just warm, loving presence come in and tell me, you know, under no uncertain terms, that everything's going to be fine no matter what. You're fine. You're loved. You're cared for. You're held right now in this moment, and everything's going to be okay. And that lesson I have taken since then and applied to my life in so many ways. It's a mantra I come back to every single time. The lesson it taught me from that moment on, everything's going to be okay. Live your life. I made a conscious choice in that moment. I truly believe I did, that I could have left and essentially what you would call die and move on to whatever the next thing is. But I chose to stay. And I did so with the wisdom, with the knowledge that I'm not going to be living my life in the same way. Things are going to change.